It's very hard to put into words, but, you know, it's my own memories that go back to when I was young.
Trees in Venda. When we have trees, we are at home.
It's one of the last truly wild places in Africa, in South Africa.
My name is Mpateleni. That's my name. Mpateleni means build for me. Build for me what is getting destroyed.
Two women fighting the potential destruction of an area spanning tens of thousands of hectares.
It has just somehow ended up being my crusade to save the Vembe.
We are claiming our land because it's our home.
Hundreds of thousands of indigenous trees, including baobabs and other specially protected species, are said to be the first casualties of a massive, heavy industrial plan in Limpopo. This is the most northern part of South Africa, the Vembe district, stretching from the Kruger National Park in the east to the Bloberg Nature Reserve in the western side of Limpopo province.
The Vembe is an area that is of enormous biodiversity significance.
For Lauren Liebenberg, this area sits at the very core of her being.
Nature has value. The trees growing rooted in the soil have value.
Trees like the iconic baobab and marula and thousands of protected species form part of this unique landscape. And in 2009, it was declared a UNESCO Biosphere Reserve, supposedly giving it special protection. At the heart of this region lies the Soutpansberg mountain range, and at its foothills, the Soutpansberg coalfields.
Ultimately, it has been 100% about coal.
10 years ago, the Limpopo government hatched a plan to exploit these enormous underdeveloped coal deposits.
It always will be about the development of the greater Soutpansberg coalfield and the extraction of those coal resources.
It's a project driven by the Limpopo Department of Economic Development, Environment and Tourism, LEDET, and Chinese investors, and is known as the Musina Makhado Special Economic Zone, or MMSEZ.
We first found out about the Musina Makhado Special Economic Zone the old-fashioned way, read about it in the newspaper.
The MMSEZ will span two different zones, a northern section earmarked for industrial manufacturing, and in the south, a steel smelter.
I can still remember my sense of utter disbelief. They're going to be building an industrial mega project here in the Vembe, in the Biosphere Reserve.
They will use the coal from the Soutpansberg region and the iron brought in from the Northern Cape, 1,000 kilometers away, to make steel for the local and export market. Lauren established Living Limpopo, an advocacy group to consolidate the objections from the diverse communities across the province.
It was the shock that jolted us into action, and thousands of people responded and registered their objection to this.
It's the only part of South Africa where you actually get naturally occurring baobab trees.
Dr. Sarah Venter has spent years researching the baobab.
To just cut these trees down, it's removing hundreds of different species that rely on this tree for a short-term, heavy industrial plant that will only last 30 years.
We didn't have answers on the impact it's going to have on our underground water. I mean, we don't have water. Even if you go to the towns, the taps are dry.
Deirdre Carter heads up Agri-Limpopo, which looks after the interests of commercial farmers in the province.
We did object. That was in February 2022. It took them 5 months to actually acknowledge receipt of the email, and then they sent us a letter to say, well, your appeal has been rejected.
The MMSEZ has been met with fierce opposition. Appeals and legal challenges have resulted in work stoppages and cost overruns.
This is the now abandoned construction site for the north side of the MMSEZ. You're looking at 200 million rands of taxpayer money being wasted.
Flying over Limpopo, you can see other areas where clearings have started and then had to stop.
Musina Makhado Special Economic Zone is an evil thing to destroy life. It's about destroying, killing to the last.
Mphatheleni Magaulele comes from a long lineage of deep indigenous spiritual knowledge. She has been celebrated across the world for the work she has done for communities. Ironically, in her province, the place she lives, her wisdom has been ignored.
There will be no air to breathe. There will be no more water to drink. It will be dirty, dirty.
They say that this special economic zone is going to provide economic opportunities, it's going to bring jobs to people.
Creating jobs for whom? For how long? How many jobs? Which skills do the people of Vembe have to do those jobs? How much are they going to earn?
Across the province, unemployment is rife, so the promise of jobs has significant attraction.
20,000 jobs is wonderful, but for who and at what level? Are we just going to say we've employed 10,000 labourers on this site?
Lindy Wilson is head of the DA in Limpopo.
Do we have the skills in South Africa that are going to be ignored because it's a foreign investment and they want to bring their skills rather than using our own? So when it comes to employment, you've got to look at a whole cross-section of what this project requires.
All other industries, whether it's tourism and agriculture, has not been able to absorb this larger percentage of the army of unemployed, which is around 500,000.
Head of department at Ledet, Matodzi Ratumbu, adds that it's government's obligation to provide employment.
It's a protected area. How are you going to protect that pristine land?
When you look at the biosphere, it has got 3 stratas. That is the core, which is a protected area which you will not touch, especially around issues of industrialization.
Limpopo's provincial and national parks make up the core conservation areas of the Biosphere Reserve. Then there are buffer zones between these core areas and where the development is taking place.
So if you look at our SEZ, it is not in the core, it is not in the buffer, it is in the transition space.
In other words, Ledet believes that because the development will be outside the core and buffer zones, impact on protected species will be minimal. But Ledet has been accused of ignoring or even suppressing the updated Vembe bioregional plan, which shows far larger core and buffer areas, an allegation they have repeatedly denied. Visiting Limpopo while they're experiencing a record amount of rain might give a different picture. But water scarcity is a reality in the province, and steel production is water intensive.
In the short term, we will use the boreholes. And in the second phase, the Zimbabwean government has agreed that they will share their water for Musina Makhado, Special Economic Zone.
The agreement with Zimbabwe is for an annual 15 million cubic meters of water, specifically for the town of Musina. Not nearly enough for the thirsty special economic zones as well. And the long-term plan is to build a storage dam along the Limpopo River.
This plan threatens the resilience of the entire Limpopo River basin system and all those dependent on the water resources.
A pipeline will need to be built from the proposed dam to feed the southern zone.
They will be pumping the water uphill a distance of about 50 kilometers to the site of the smelter.
But it's not just water and environmental concerns that are making people angry. While LEDET is propelling this development, the implementation is in the hands of a department subsidiary, LEADER, the Limpopo Economic Development Agency. So LEADER appoints the specialist to assess the environmental impact, but final approval lies with LEDET.
You're the regulator and you're also the implementing agent.
No, we are not.
But as the department, this MMSEZ will be under you. That's correct, right?
It is under Limpopo Economic Development Agency. It is not under us.
LEADER, though, falls directly under LEDET.
But aren't you refereeing your own match?
Not at all. Not at all.
He may not agree, but the fact remains, LEDET will ultimately have final say over crucial issues like the potential environmental impact of this project. The MMSEZ is billed as South Africa's largest ever industrial development and is based on an economic development model from a different era. With its very uncertain outcome, it has already cost us.
You have to look at the very real risk that we're just building a future stranded asset in the bushveld.
In a response to parliamentary questions from the DA,